they'll just come in and nationalize them and take it over. Let me give an example of something that I like to use when it comes to power. A lot of people think it's money. It's nothing to do with money. Hitler, Stalin, Mao, none of these people were rich. They were poor off the streets. When they got that power, they didn't want for anything. Let's take an example of today. Let's say that David Rockefeller walked into the studio and told you to cut my throat. You wouldn't do it. You'd get on 911 and say, there's a nutcase here, come and get him.
He's probably on SSRIs.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of retainers, so obviously he wouldn't be at the county jail very long. But that kind of money that he has doesn't give him enough power to tell you what to do because you're a moral man. Now, if we were in 1950 in Beijing, China, and Mao Zedong walked in here and told you to cut my throat, you knew you had two choices, yours or mine. That's power. Money can't buy that power in a moral people. And that's what's being built, is this kind of power. It looks like money in the beginning, but it really isn't. It is an accumulation in the government itself.
This is something that's been going on a long time, and of course we played it, this clip, and I want to go to that clip. You guys got that ready from Petraeus and Pelosi? This is something we played many times, and I think this really lays it out. Here we are, 20 years in the North American Union, and let's play that clip, what Nancy Pelosi and David Petraeus have just said recently.
Anyone who comes here sees that this is a community with a border going through it.
Boldly proclaimed the coming North American decades as the title now. It's founded on recognition that if you put these three economies together, as has been the case 20 years into the North American Free Trade Act implementation, you find unique countries in terms of demographics.
We're all Americans in this hemisphere, North and South America, and this crisis that some call a crisis, we have to view as an opportunity.
There you go. The crisis is always an opportunity. But what David Petraeus was talking about, he answered his own question. What comes after America? He says North America. Well, what comes after North America is, as you pointed out, the globalist union. And that's why it's so important for us to get people educated about what is happening with the Trans-Pacific Partnership as well as the Transatlantic Partnership. They're now consolidating these regional economies together into a global regime, aren't they?
We are being integrated in our economy. And if people really go online and look for this economic integration situation, you will find that, for instance, a few years ago, George H.W. Bush signed an agreement with Putin saying that we are now partners in all sense of the term, that we are going to integrate our economies. And then Clinton followed it up with with the same sort of partnership agreement, and then George W. followed it up again to reaffirm this thing. And if you go online and you start to look at Boeing and Lockheed, companies of that nature, let's see, another one's GE, you'll see that the integration of the process of manufacturing is very high. For instance, we cannot produce an airplane of any size in this country any longer without the Chinese and Russians supplying us the parts, particularly titanium parts. We see that Lockheed is working with them now on nuclear projects. They're working with the EU on and China on manned space projects. Now, I kind of worry a little bit about that when I see a potential enemy working with our own companies on things that will be a detriment to us in time of war. The secrets that they will learn, the very fact that we will not be able to manufacture the things that we need to manufacture to win a war.
Well, what you have with that is you have a corporation which has bits and pieces of everything that you need being made in these different countries. So not any one individual country has the power that, say, GE does, because they are the ones who can make this happen for anybody or stop it from happening for
That's true. The more disturbing aspect, however, it is that they're moving their R&D, their research and development there. General Motors has even said that. They're going to do all of their R&D now in China. Boeing does, Lockheed does, all these various firms are doing their R&D in Russia and China, or both.
I guess I look at this too, and as we see the rise of robots, of artificial intelligence, as we see them taking over different aspects, it's not just that our manufacturing base has been put into China for the most part, but now we see that they're going to be competing even with people in service industries here. So the question is, what do we do when the robots are driving everybody everywhere, doing everyone's service for them? What do they need us for? And of course, many of them have said they don't need us, and they have a plan for that as well. We got to go to a commercial break. We're going to be right back with Arthur Thompson, CEO of the John Birch Society, and his book, International Merger by Foreign Entanglement. Stay with us.
You've been hearing about the in-home freeze dryer from Harvest Right for months now. Have you invested in yours yet? As you know, we live in a politically and economically troubled time. You should be preparing for an uncertain future today. Right now is the time to start freeze drying your own food so you can become self-reliant and less dependent upon others. To invest in your own home freeze dryer, go to harvestright.com. Hurry, supplies are limited. Again, that's a home freeze dryer from harvestright.com. And be sure to mention this ad to save $200 through the month of August.
Virtually anyone can hack your cell phone and track your calls, your texts, your emails, your every movement, but only if they can detect a signal. Stay one step ahead of hackers and Big Brother with a Blockit Pocket, a custom-made pocket infused with pure silver that creates a complete Faraday enclosure for your cell phone. For free shipping to the lower 48, visit blockitpocket.com or call 888-315-9618. Blockitpocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
A 30-day GMO-free emergency food supply for only $99 at 30dayfoodsupply.com. You can purchase Oregon Trail Foods' 1-month supply of high-quality, nutritious, and healthy emergency meals for less than $100. These vegetarian meals are naturally high in fiber, carbs, and protein, and they're packed with oxygen absorbers in Mylar pouches. They're completely free of any artificial flavors and colorings, have a 20-year shelf life, and take up to 70% less space than number 10 cans. They even offer a gluten-free option. Oregon Trail Foods and 30dayfoodsupply.com keep prices low by buying directly from the producers in Oregon and then passing the savings to you. Purchase a 30-day, 90-serving emergency food supply for only $99 this month, and $10 ships your entire order. Visit the website at 30dayfoodsupply.com or call 541-229-0010. That's 30dayfoodsupply.com, where they make preparedness affordable. 30dayfoodsupply.com.
American gardeners and fellow patriots, make the right choice with your money, time, and your family food supply. Choose 100% pure heirloom seeds in the Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com. Why spend more? The Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com is only $37.95 and includes 20 varieties of pure, hardy, easy-to-grow heirloom seeds. Yes, only $37.95. That's 70% less than our competitors. You could buy 3 Survival Seed Vaults for less than one of theirs. The Survival Seed Vault from MyPatriotSupply.com includes detailed planting and seed-saving instructions and ships same day. Plus, all orders over $49 ship free. MyPatriotSupply.com is American-owned by patriots like you, passionate about freedom and preparedness. Call now, 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Or discover more emergency preparedness items when you order at MyPatriotSupply.com. Choose the original. Choose the Survival Seed Vault at MyPatriotSupply.com.
Mike Stenerson for Midas Resources. At no time in history have precious metals been more important, certainly not in my 22 years in the industry. The dollar has lost over 90% of its value in the last 60 years. No fiat currency has ever survived the government printing presses. Ours is not immune. The time is now to be proactive. 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Anything tied to the dollar is at risk. CDs, annuities, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, you name it. So decide. Do you want to leave a legacy of wealth or debt for your family? The choice is yours. Call me at 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. That's 1-800-686-2237, extension 116. Be proactive, not reactive. Call 1-800-686-2237, extension 116.
Just inside the doorway. Use it only in emergency.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. Here in Austin, we have joining us live in the studio, Arthur Thompson, CEO of the John Birch Society. Just before we went to break, Mr. Thompson, you were talking about how the multinational corporations are essentially moving bits and pieces of critical industries amongst the different countries so that nothing is made entirely within one country. And we were talking during the break about Boeing. Tell the people about what's going on with that in our defense industry.
Well, Boeing is cooperating with the aircraft industry in China to help them manufacture parts that are competitive on the world market for military aircraft and that sort of thing, particularly for the Chinese new fighter and the operation of the Chinese carrier. You know, the Chinese have a carrier now, and so the aircraft that operate on that, the Boeing's working with them to upgrade those things. So that should help the feelings of the Filipinos and the Japanese and the Vietnamese, feel real good about that sort of thing. And don't think for a minute they don't know that's going on. And so they look at us, with at an askance look, if you will, because wait a minute, you're our friend here, but then you're helping our enemy there. Just like something else is going on right now, I think that the listeners really need to know about, and this is a little off subject, but something has been worrying me, and I got it confirmed in the front page of the Wall Street Journal on Monday, and that is that in order to fight ISIS, we're helping another terrorist organization. You see, because the Kurdish Workers' Party and the Democrat Party in Kurdistan were started by Russia. They used the hammer and sickle on their flag for years. Lately, they've been trying to obfuscate as to what they really stand for. But now they're on the terrorist watch list, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So we're helping one terrorist group on the watch list to fight another terrorist group.
That's right.
And then
we're probably equipping both of these. Actually, we have been equipping and training both sides of these things for quite some time. In Syria, they were killing and beheading Christians before they got together and gave themselves a new name and went across the border into Iraq.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's exactly the way this thing rolls out. Well, talking about these trade agreements, I mean, these things are really kind of Trojan horses for a whole slew of different issues.
Sure.
One of the things, of course, we were talking about was the UN Declaration of Human Rights getting put in, just as we were talking about putting in these controls of the internet through the back door, calling them copyright violations. They can essentially put anything into these trade agreements. They're being negotiated in secret by corporate representatives, and our elected representatives are not allowed to even see this stuff.
That's right. You got to pass it in a week.
Yeah.
You don't have time to read it. One of the things I have here from the European Commission, for instance, is the Trade Policy Committee of how to handle the CETA agreement, the Canadian-European Trade Agreement. And right here, after a few pages, they say that they reaffirm their strong attachment to democracy and to fundamental rights as laid down in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So they slipped this thing into the treaty. And these are actually not the Bill of Rights as you and I and America believes in the Bill of Rights that come from God. These are rights given us by the United Nations.
Yeah.
And then they have stipulations about how they can take them away. You have freedom of speech as long as it isn't against the purposes and principles of the United Nations. Freedom of assembly as long as it's not against the purposes and principles of the United Nations.
So they're not really rights at all. They're really a list of privileges that they grant to you temporarily and can take away at any point that they want. That's not a fundamental right. If it doesn't come from God, if it's being given to you by some government somewhere, some political organization, then they can take those rights at any point under any pretense.
True, and in fact, in some of them, they have an exception, for instance, on the freedom of assembly that any dictator can run a car through. And so they just want to control the people, but they make people think that they've got rights. They make people think that they've got free elections and that sort of thing. We just had a study on elections under dictators. Most people don't know that they did have elections in Nazi Germany and under Stalin, and how they were manipulated to where the people thought that they had a free vote, but really did not. And we're starting to see that now creep into the voting system in the United States.
Yes, we've discussed many times with people who follow this very carefully, there's so many different ways that you can control an election. You can control who gets on the ballot. You can control who gets into the debates, as we've seen over and over again. And then, of course, whoever counts the votes, whoever registers the voters, whoever has custody of the votes, whoever reports this, I mean, you can get into that system in so many different ways. That's what's so troubling about it. And we can't even address voter ID without being called racist.